All right. This has been a long time coming because I haven't really been following along with the Rekieta drama as much as I should have been over the past couple of months. I've been busy with like career changes and things of that nature. It's been a pretty hectic time for me. So unfortunately, the Nostradamus has not been able to involve himself in the Rekieta sphere and talk about like what's going on and like the major happenings, and I suppose like a secondary reason for that is because there hasn't been a whole lot going on. Nick is coping and seething. He's on like some kind of probation. He's not allowed to drink and do alcohol, and he's open about the fact that like he was an addict and he was doing cocaine constantly, but like, oh well, I could stop whatever I wanted. Like, he's still like complaining about the government and Aaron, and it seems like the list of people he's blaming for the things that went wrong in his personal life keep growing and growing. And it started with Aaron. Like he's mad at Drexel for leaving him, for abandoning him, and there's just all these like other YouTubers, all these other personalities that he's like gotten angry at, and the only people still in his corner are people who are trying and failing to leech off of his past successes. Right, that's been a reoccurring thing throughout this whole debacle. The people with integrity left a long time ago, and everyone who stuck by his side, no matter what, are grifters and are just disgusting human beings who honestly should be just condemned alongside him. But one of the interesting things that propped up, over the past couple of days is Rekieta going on someone else's podcast and releasing some interesting statements about the nanny. Now, we know the nanny, we know her name, we know like, she left the job, like we know that like she was an employee there for a couple of years. We know she was driving the kids around. We know like her leaving like through a wrench into like Nick's activities, like the reason he complains about driving so much is because she left. We've known this, but this has been like a very strong person of interest for months now, because over a year now, because this individual was an inside source in the situation, knew what was going on, could have explained it like you know, had a firsthand experience as to like what Nick is like behind the scenes, could have given like interesting statements about the kids. She was in charge of the kids. She was the nanny, their caretaker, their primary caretaker, considering what their mom is like. There's real. This is a real person of intrigue, right? And Nick seems to have realized this, because on this podcast, Nick came out and tried to allege that the nanny gave his children alcohol. He's been saying this for a while now, is that like, oh, the nanny is spending all this money on snacks. And as we investigate further, we learn that the snacks are actually groceries for the kids, essential items. He keeps complaining about like things like that, things that don't really make any sense. That's been like true for a long time, that like nothing he said about this person made any sense. But now he's gone past the line of credibility. Now he's alleging that the nanny was abusive and was like taking sips out of his whiskey bottles when he wasn't around. He would come home and he would notice immediately that like, oh man, I have less whiskey bottles than I did when I left. And then meanwhile, it takes him like a full year for his kid to tell him, oh, by the way, the nanny was shoving those bottles down our throats. Like it's obviously a cope, right? It doesn't really make any sense. By the way, I mentioned this in the comment section of the video, but like I love the fact that he didn't notice that his children were being abused, and yet in the video itself, he pretty much admits that he noticed that the bottles of whiskey were missing. Like priorities there, Nick, unbelievable. But like again, this is very typical Nick behavior, right? Where he keeps trying to blame other people for his problems, desperately trying to figure out like what's going on, like trying to like create this narrative, trying to like blame other people, blame the cops, blame the government, blaming like Aaron, and now blaming the nanny, who, by all accounts was perfectly responsible during all of this and did absolutely nothing wrong. Obviously, like there may be like some thing she did. Like me personally, I'm not sure like why she didn't come forward to talk about like what was going on in that house. Like I don't know if it's like a professional thing. I don't know anything about that industry, but like I kind of did want her to come forward in the trial and like during the case and like testify like against him and like give some like examples of like what she saw and something like that. She still has not come forward, and I suppose like for her best interest, that's probably the best thing to do. But like, what I find interesting about this is that she's been gone for like over a year now, and Nick is still seething about her. Nick is still treating her like she like very deeply betrayed him, and it's just a giant like it's just so disrespectful to treat a former employee like that. It just doesn't make any sense. Like it just doesn't really make any sense that he would obsess over this so much and like treat her as if like she very deeply disrespected him. It's like, come on, like what are you thinking? Like what were you hoping to accomplish? Like who did you think was going to believe this, right? Like even at face value, this idea that like some babysitter was like paying kids money to like guzzle down like bottles of whiskey is just ridiculous. But like when you know the full context of it, when you know the source of the story, when you know the dates, when you know a little bit about the people involved, it just becomes like completely unbelievable. Right. And immediately I would say like pretty much everyone in the tractor community like knew it was nonsense, knew it was bullshit. And the big takeaway though is that like I do think it is time that the nanny does need to come forward and does need to like give her side of the story. That's kind of my thinking about this, because I think if she doesn't like lawyer up, like it's very possible that like Nick could come after her for something, like, and if that happens, like I don't know what position she's in or if she's like able to defend herself. Like I don't know if Nick represents like himself, like that's gonna be like an instant win for her. But like it's like, but yeah, that if he does like, I don't know, Nick doesn't have the best legal case, the best case to stand on. But like, you do have to prepare for this stuff. You do have to prepare for like the possibility that this guy is gonna come after you. And it's true, he's all bark and no bite. But like, I don't know. Like, I do think, the number one major thing in the community right now is that like we do need to see the body cam footage. Like that's the big thing. I still want to see and expect to see in the future. We're gonna get a hold of it eventually, I'm sure. But the second thing is like for me personally is yeah, the nanny needs to come out and give her statement. Like because Nick is making all these defamatory statements about her professionally, alleging that she's an alcoholic, that she's abused. Oh, by the way, like he himself is an alcoholic, so him accusing anyone else of being an alcoholic is rich. But like, yeah, he's like sitting there trying to ruin this woman's like professional reputation, like trying to like allege she did something she very likely did not do, right? Like trying to like pin the blame on everything that's happened on her. This is something that we really do need to talk about and address as just being another example of Rekieta retardation.